Okay. Well, it took some doing, but we're finally ready for our Wrathgate cinematic.
What do you need?
We're also so close to 68. And once we hit 68, we will be able to leave Northrend. I'm probably going to try and stick in Northrend until about level 70, just to make things easier for when we move on to either Cataclysm or Mists of Pandaria. So, yeah. Right now we have to bring the High Chief of the Tonka that we've recruited into the Horde as well. I'm not entirely sure, but I think some of these Tonka might end up at the Wrathgate later on.
Be careful.
Unfortunately as well, I think I noticed that I missed a quest that related to Ice Mist Village, so we'll have to complete that too before we move on to our goal.
Go with
I think Agamar just said it. There are going to be some of these Tonka at the Wrathgate. I wonder if he has to finish this scripting walk before he gives me the Wrathgate quest. Or maybe I have to do this first. I'm clearly missing something, otherwise I think Agamar would give me the quest by now.
Sug.
This one just looks like free experience, and you know how I get when you offer me free experience. So this is essentially just a letter from Sourfang explaining to us why he is sort of moving behind the scenes. He's worried that Garrosh will follow too closely in his father's footsteps and lead the Horde down a dark path. So for their first engagement with the Lich King, he's sending his own son, which obviously he's brought up with his ideals, and his son will battle with the honor and integrity that he comes to expect. Like, he doesn't want brutality of, say if Garrosh sent in a general and ordered that general to secure the target by any means necessary. He then waits for the Alliance to attack the Scourge, and then attacks the Alliance in the back, and retreats, and doesn't fight the Scourge at all, or something. You know, that would obviously not be the most honorable thing to do. Attack somebody in the back. So, Sourfang is hoping that by having his very son command the force, to avoid any of that sort of shenaniganery. And that's all just pertaining to that little letter and quest in that little part of the base there. But, Sourfang, if you don't remember, he was the orc that ran in when we were fighting that necromancer back in Borean Tundra, way back at the beginning. He ran in, and I told everybody that he wasn't supposed to, like, he was against his orders or whatever. We were supposed to do it alone, and he came in and helped us anyway. Yeah, so that's the kind of guy he is, and that's the kind of things he worries about. I'm a little bit worried about choosing the wrong expansion to move into next. I really enjoy the art style of Pandaria, but the Jade Forest is such a linear tromp through, it makes it difficult to really enjoy it. In Cataclysm you get a little bit more choice, I guess. It's just older, so it's less fresh. Not that Pandaria is all that fresh anyway. Alright, and we've got our quest for the Wrathgate. Well, not the quest for the Wrathgate. I think we have just a touch more busy work to do first. But we are on the way. We're going to the actual grounds where the event takes place. So we're so close. So very close. It's taken way too long to get this done, and I'm glad to finally see some resolution on it. Ahead of us you can see a tower for Dalaran, and to the left you can see Icecrown Citadel itself. It's not tiny, and it's from up at the top of there that the Lich King commands his zombie hordes. We're flying in over the Alliance half of the encounter area, Four Dragon Hold, named after High Lord Bolvar Four Dragon. He's a pretty big deal. He's a really powerful paladin. He's pretty much just like armored in the light and a solid warrior. So he's everybody's hero because he's so shiny. So he's the leader of the Alliance forces, and on the other side of the hill here we have the Horde forces, led by Sourfang, the young Sourfang, not old Sourfang. And it's this is where we have to drop our quest off. So you can see on the battlefield all of these Scourge and the ferocious battling going on here. The forces here are hoping to tear down that Wrathgate, and Granthar it's called, and enter Icecrown Citadel to engage the Lich King. Makes sense, right? The gate itself is crafted to look like the Helm of Domination worn by the Lich King. So it's kind of like an intimidation tactic, along with a gigantic spiky jaw opening. You'll see how that works later. So yeah, that's all happening right in front of us right now. And we will see what our Horde forces get up to.
Strength and honor.
Okay, so from here, Sourfang is reluctant to begin the full assault on the gate because they are getting strafed from the air by undead dragons. So the Scourge are in the dragon graveyard of the Dragonblight here, raising dragons to attack the Horde and the Alliance. There's one of them right there below me. And the Horde and the Alliance have no problem going and tackling this threat, but they are worried about the feelings of the other dragons, because this is their big old graveyard. So that's why we're being sent to this place, Wormrest Temple, to gain permission from the dragons as a whole to assault their graveyard, essentially.
It is the fires within that burn the brightest.
Okay, so in the beginning, before World of Warcraft and Warcraft 3, red dragons actually used to be very hostile. Like, they would attack you on the field all the time if you ran into them anyway. They have become a lot more tame in recent WoW history. And then, going even further back, the dragons never used to exist in the form that we see them here at all. They still could fly, and they still were technically dragons, I suppose, of a type. But they were called proto-dragons. I don't know if that's what they called themselves back then, but that's what they call them now, so that's what we're gonna call them. So, what had happened was the proto-dragons had a father dragon, and all of the dragons themselves were descended from the very first primal elements that were tamed in the initial shaping of Azeroth. All of the most chaotic elemental forces were sealed away in different various lands or dimensions. I don't know, if we go to Cataclysm, I can show you the Firelands, per se. Anyway, things ticked along just fine for the proto-drakes until their father drake, Galacrond, whose grave we are currently at, started to cannibalize all of the other drakes. Now, this wasn't, like, remember, these aren't living creatures, they're some sort of elemental beings. So, eating his own children somehow had the effect of growing him larger and more powerful. This is his skeleton right here. And once the threat he posed had become big enough, the more powerful of the proto-drakes and the Titan Watcher tier teamed up together in order to defeat the massive proto-drake. That's kind of funny. They essentially made him choke to death, which is, I guess, poetic. His final defeat came from having a boulder lodged in his throat and then throwing one of the zombie drakes that he was controlling by, like, after he ate them, he gained control of their remains on some level, and that's what, in the end, he choked on. So I guess you could say that Galacrond was the first necromancer. And he wasn't doing necromancy on, like, piddling little humans' remains. He was doing it on dragon remains, which is way cooler. For examples of that, please watch the Wrath of the Lich King
My mana is low.
cinematic trailer.
I need mana first.
It's sort of hard to imagine the kind of agency a creature that in its life just knew how to bring
I must
creatures
get
back
closer.
from the dead, if that creature was then brought back from the dead itself, solely for the purpose of aiding an undead army, like, it would be a nightmare, a complete nightmare. But luckily, we put a stop to all of this by stopping the scourge magics flowing into this giant skeleton and eliminating all of the mining zombies that are excavating it. And we also take from them their artifact that they were using. I think that artifact was this Scythe of Antioch. So that does two things for us. First, we gained the permission of the dragonflights that we were initially sent here for, and also we have eliminated the frostworm threat. So all we have to do now is inform Sourfang the Younger that all of the preparations have been made, and now we'll have even more soldiers for the battlefield. And it's been a long journey. We had to help the Forsaken improve their blight and blight spreaders, and gain the reinforcements for this cinematic.
Iron forward! Take the lead! For Mordor! For the Alliance! Back, you mindless wretches! Fight on, brothers!
Rise up, sons of the Horde! Blood and glory await us! Lontargar! For the Horde!
I was wondering if you'd show up.
I couldn't let the Alliance have all the fun today.
Arthas! The blood of your father! Of your people! Demands justice! Come forth, coward! And answer for your crimes!
You speak of justice, of cowardice. I will show you the justice of the grave, and the true meaning of fear.
Enough talk! Let it be finished!
You will pay for all the lives you've stolen, traitor!
Boldly stated, but there is nothing you can...
What?
Did you think we had forgotten? Did you think we had forgiven? Behold now the terrible vengeance of the Forsaken!
Sylvanas.
Death to the Scourge! And death to the living!
This is the hour of the Forsaken.
We're finished. No escape for any of us.
And that's what gathering our reinforcements and helping the Forsaken had given us. The development of the plague spreaders that were used in this terrorist action, they were ordered to be used this way by that Forsaken that gave the little speech. He was Grand Apothecary Putris, as well as the Dreadlord Verimathras. And you know from the Arthas video I had done, Dreadlords are not the kindest and best people to have in your inner circle. This event actually started the invasion of the Undercity by the Alliance and the Horde. Undercity itself had been taken over by Verimathras and Putris, and they had undead guards all the way to the throne room where the final encounter took place once you had worked your way there. And that was just a patch event for Wrath of the Lich King, so if you want to see any coverage of that, you'll have to go and actually YouTube it. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find it. Just look up Undercity Wrath of the Lich King event. And there we have it. We've made it past the Wrath Gate, and we are ready to move on. Like I said before, I'm probably going to stay in Northrend until after I hit 70, and then move on to the next area. So, if you want to see pandas, let me know that you want to see pandas. If you don't want to see pandas, let me know that you don't want to see pandas. I'm happy with either. I really like both, so whichever one is requested, that will be the one that I go to. And in the meantime, I suppose we will just set up shop in Wyrmrest. It's pretty close, and it's got a good amount of quests to do. So, if we set up there, it'll give people some time to weigh in and make sure that we don't end up somewhere that nobody wants to be.